This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A massive out-of-control wildfire continues to burn near Bunnabonaby Cree Nation in northeastern Manitoba. It's also known as Oxford House. That's led to the evacuation of many community members to here in Winnipeg, but also Brandon and Thompson. CBC's Gavin Axelrod joins us live. And Gavin, what more can you tell us tonight?
Well, Brittany, we know as many as 6 military Hercules planes have been helping get people out of the community, some coming here to Winnipeg. Now, the Red Cross has set up their base here at this hotel where I'm at. It's to help people register and get essential supplies. It's one of many hotels in the area that people from the community are staying at while they're here. Now, the chief of the community says around more than 1,000 people have been evacuated so far. We've been here for several hours today. We've seen people come in with their belongings, some with bags, some with very little. There have been a lot of tired parents with young children, and of course there have been several elders as well. Lots of people gathering behind me. It's dinner time. People want to eat after a long day. Now, one of the people we spoke to was Marlene Creeves. Here's what she had to say.
I'm just scared about them, yeah. About that smoke and fire too, yeah. But the spraying, nothing going to happen to him.
Yeah, I hope everyone makes it on the plane today. There's still lots of babies and elders back there.
Now, that second evacuee, she's referring to the hundreds of people that are still on the First Nation right now. And the chief says about 1,000 more people are supposed to arrive by the end of day. We also spoke to the province today. Wildfire Director Earl Simmons says the fire has consumed about 6,000 hectares of forest by now.
The fire behavior was extreme. It was ranked 5 and 6, which is the most extreme fire behavior.
Now, Simmons says some overnight rain did help make the evacuation process a little bit earlier, but they're still worried about some weather that's projected to roll in over the weekend. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew also said earlier today he understands it can be a stressful time for people leaving their homes. Brittany, back to you.
All right, thanks so much. Manitoba is banning mobile phone use by younger students in schools. There will also be restrictions on mobile phones for older students. CBC's Bartlett Kivas has the details.
Come September, this is something you'll see less of in Manitoba schools. This province is the last in Western Canada to enact restrictions on mobile phones in schools. Kids in kindergarten to grade 8 will no longer be able to use mobile phones during school hours. Students in grades 9 to 12 will be able to take their devices to school, but won't be allowed to use them in class. These older students will be able to use their phones during breaks and at lunchtime.
We need to ensure that kids can focus.
Premier Wab Kinew says the goal is to reduce distractions. He also says the devices may have detrimental effects on youth.
I am concerned that the way the algorithms of TikTok and YouTube and Instagram affect your brain chemistry and composition, that we do need to take this step to be able to ensure that this generation in schools today can reach their full potential.
There will be cell phone ban exemptions for students with medical needs or other specialized educational requirements. Teachers will also have discretion to allow cell phone use in class for educational purposes. Earlier this week, CBC News asked a handful of Winnipeg high school students what they thought of mobile phone use in school.
In general, I don't think it's a horrible thing. There are certain things where it can definitely hinder and improve students' performance in schools. I don't think it's inherently a bad thing.
Before I had a cell phone, I noticed that my grades were a lot better. Then after I got a cell phone, my parents noticed the next semester my grades definitely went down.
There's also some evidence mobile phone restrictions in schools reduce incidents of cyberbullying. On that front, the Canadian Centre for Child Protection praised Manitoba's government for bringing in the partial ban. Bartlett Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
This Saturday marks the one-year anniversary of the day Tina Fontaine's body was found in the Red River. She was just 15 years old when she was killed, young and exploited. Her slaying not only outraged Manitobans and Canadians, but police who spent countless hours trying to track down her killer. I sat down with the now retired police officer who led the investigation a decade ago.
You're pretty, smart, gorgeous.
Her face has been seen from coast to coast to coast. Her name etched in most Canadians' minds, Tina Fontaine.
Tina was such a young girl and just a child, and it was such a tragedy.
The death of the 15-year-old shook the city, attracting worldwide attention as police began searching for her killer. Sergeant John O'Donovan was the lead investigator on the case.
It was a very intense investigation. I felt a lot of pressure in it, but it was all self-imposed pressure.
She'd been missing for 8 days before her young, lifeless body was pulled from the Red River, wrapped in a duvet, weighed down by rocks.
You got this little girl, and when you look at the picture that was put out for her missing person poster, she's just a little girl. And now she's disposed of in this manner that it was absolutely disgusting.
It lit a fire under O'Donovan and his team to find the person responsible. At the time she went missing, Fontaine was in the care of the province's Child and Family Services.
There's no doubt about it. She was exploited by everybody that came in contact with her.
For O'Donovan, it was important people remembered she was just a young girl. The day after her body was found, his emotions ran high.
This is a child that's been murdered. I think, society, we'd be horrified if somebody if we found a litter of kittens or pups in the river in this condition. This is a child. So, society should be horrified.
It was an off-script moment that brought humanity to the horror.
To me, it was, what is wrong with us as a race of humans? What the hell is wrong with us that this is what we're doing? We just disposed of this kid like that. So I did feel very emotional about it. I did feel very strongly about it.
And put MMIWG cases in a different light.
We had never seen that across the country. That was actually one of the first times that you saw somebody really show compassion and caring and almost challenge the public on how you see this little girl. And then what was the response to that? Tina Fontaine, again, galvanized the country, not only Manitoba, not only Winnipeg, but the country.
But the investigation was just beginning.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
Hey, I like to report a blue truck that was stolen earlier today.
It was long, complicated. It involved a 6-figure undercover sting operation unlike any others by Winnipeg police. Every move planned, scripted, recorded.
It's for all the world like directing a movie but the stakes are so much higher.
It led to the arrest of Raymond Cormier a year later. While they never got a confession, O'Donovan says evidence from the recordings made him sure they had the right man. Cormier shared information that was never publicly released when telling a friend he thought he'd just seen a ghost walking down the street.
And thought he saw a ghost. And he believed that he saw a girl who he believed was Tina Fontaine. And she looked like her, she was built like her, she was young, and then the one thing that he said, which I found was dynamite, she was even wearing the same white skirt. Now, in all the pictures we put out of Tina, she never wore a white skirt. Unfortunately, the body we took from the river, she was wearing a white skirt.
The CFS system has definitely failed Tina Fontaine. The Winnipeg Police Services failed Tina Fontaine. And Canadian society failed Tina Fontaine.
Ultimately, in 2018, Cormier was acquitted. He died earlier this year.
Do I think we arrested the wrong person and charged the wrong person? I don't believe so.
Now, 10 years later, Tina's legacy lives on as community members gather to honor her memory in the days leading up to the somber anniversary. She is never forgotten, and while her death sparked a catalyst for change a decade ago, today, the anniversary is a reminder there's still work to be done.
We should hang out again whenever this matter ends. Whenever. See you soon.
Manitoba is spending more money on subsidies for security equipment. The province has earmarked $1.5 million to give a $300 rebate to homeowners, renters, and small businesses buying security cameras and other security devices. An earlier allotment of $500,000 worth of rebates was snapped up in 2 weeks. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says anyone who already applied for the earlier rebates will be first in line for the new batch of money.
If you've been holding on to your receipts, if you've been holding off on applying, we encourage you to do so now. Website is live and it gives you an opportunity to get that information in.
The first direct deposits are slated for Friday. Oh no, I'm just kidding. It's out with the old and in with the new at CF Polo Park Shopping Mall. A new London Drugs is moving in and some stores are moving out of the way to make room for the new space. CBC's Mike Arsenault has the story.
Soon, these Polo Park shoppers are going to have a new store to browse in. In a couple months, construction will begin on a new London Drugs located on the second floor of the shopping center.
It was a collaboration. We have relationships with them out west, and they were looking for another location in Winnipeg, and we thought it'd be a good match for this area and for our community.
London Drugs will be the second pharmacy in Polo Park, with Shoppers Drug Mart on the first floor. Peter Havens says some stores are moving to a different part of the mall to make room for London Drugs, but others won't make the cut.
Tommy Guns is a great example. Their lease was up, and they wanted to get bigger, so we were able to accommodate that. Some stores, we're just not going to welcome back because maybe they don't fit the direction we're going, and some stores will definitely find a spot to put them.
I guess it depends which stores are closing because I kind of enjoy some of those back there, but having a second drugstore in the mall would, I think, be beneficial to most people.
Build-A-Bear has already relocated, and Famous Footwear is in the process of doing the same. Below the Belt and Urban Outfitters are moving out to make way for London Drugs.
I'd give it a try just to see and then, compare them and see what was best.
I love London Drugs. It'll be better than having to go all the way to St. Vital.
London Drugs' first Manitoba store opened in St. Vital Mall 20 years ago. General Manager of Retail Operations for London Drugs, Kevin Sorby, says there was a demand for a second store in Winnipeg, and the new store will bring new jobs.
There's going to be 60 to 70 positions to start. There'll be everything from cashiers to department personnel to stocking positions to pharmacy.
Haven says this change is just part of the retail industry.
And that's the nature of retail. It rolls over about every 8 to 10 years. People's tastes change, what customers want changes.
Havens wouldn't reveal the floor plan just yet, but says the mall will have its new look in fall of 2025. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
New figures show Winnipeg's population grew by about 20,000 people over the past year, and the broader Winnipeg area grew even more. The city's Economic Development Office estimates about 816,000 people now live in the Manitoba capital. That's based on figures from July 1st. The Winnipeg Census Metropolitan Area, which includes Winnipeg and some of the surrounding municipalities, now has about 937,000 people. The City of Winnipeg's economist says the biggest driver of this growth is people coming to Canada.
A very significant share of our population growth is driven by immigration, which is going to be highly dependent on federal policy in terms of how many immigrants do we let into the country each year.
Even with no changes to immigration policy, the city expects population growth to taper off next year. Winnipeg is not expected to get to 1 million people until 2046. Well, it was a rainy, dreary day here in the southern part of the province, and I'm sure there are lots of people with wet feet out there here in Winnipeg, including myself this morning. Darius Madavi is in now for a check on your forecast. Darius.
Thanks, Brittany. Now, I think we're going to be splitting the weather story into two halves today. The bottom half of the province, or not the bottom half, but the bottommost parts of the province, the southernmost parts, getting some decent rainfall today. It's been a fairly wet day, as I'm sure you're well aware in Winnipeg. We're going to continue to see that rainfall probably through tonight in many places. And in total, we're going to have some decent rainfall accumulations. Now, no weather warnings in place as a result of that rain coming through, but something to be watching, especially as we get into tomorrow, as things start to dry out as we get later into the overnight period. period. Now, in the north, I also want to mention we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in place for a fairly large area. That is something to keep in mind because we're going to continue to see potentially some storms pop up there. Now, a good place to watch, especially because if we look at our rainfall accumulation in the models, this is actually running from midnight earlier today to 11 p.m. tonight. So you can see that we have some decent rainfall accumulations, 41 millimeters for Winnipeg, but also up here we have a few areas where we are expecting to get some significant rainfall accumulations by the end of tonight. So a few places to watch, not entirely in the south, but for the most part, that is where it's contained to. So far today, we've gotten around 30 millimeters of rain for Winnipeg, so maybe still a little ways to go before we start to dry out later. In terms of those wind, in terms of the wind, that could also be a story over the next few days, especially given how much wildfire smoke is coming into the province and moving around. If we look at our smoke and haze forecast, you can see how much is coming. It's actually good today. You can see just where those fires are and where that smoke is coming from. And as we continue to roll this forward, lots of smoke really blanketing the province. That is going to be a story for the foreseeable future. We have a ridge of high pressure building in that's going to be keeping a lot of that smoke down at the surface level. So if we take a look here, you can see that down at the surface level, especially for the more northern parts of the province. But some of that, especially as we get into tomorrow, making its way further south. But still, of course, this is mainly the story for the northern half of the province. So today, wet in the south, smoke in the north, but that smoke is starting to spread further south over the next 24, 36 hours or so. Now, if we look at tonight, we do have some more rain continuing again for much of the southern parts of the province. A little bit further north as well, we have some of that rain, a risk of thunderstorms in a few places, but generally speaking, a little bit more calm as we get later into the overnight period, calming down for tomorrow. If we can see that in our hour-by-hour forecast, you can see not much rain coming tomorrow, mostly sunshine, both in the north and in the south as some of that cloud starts to clear out. So again, a little bit of good news there. If you find yourself in Winnipeg, we do have, as I mentioned, some more cloud and rain tonight, but then clearing up as we get into the morning time. That cloud starting to clear up for the most part. And then as we get into tomorrow afternoon, also more cloud clearing up.
Thanks, Darius. Well, still ahead, have you ever wanted to live in a small town? Now you can, and make an extra $30,000 by doing it right here in the prairies. We'll tell you more after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. A Manitoba researcher is watching the spread of Mpox closely. Jason Kindrachuk recently returned from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where he studied the virus. The World Health Organization has declared Mpox a global health emergency. Kindrachuk is the Canada Research Chair on Emerging Viruses at the University of Manitoba.
We're seeing a very, very quick spread, and the problem is we're in a resource-limited area, so we don't have the diagnostics and certainly the the contact tracing capacity to be able to identify all of those cases expediently. So it's becoming a bit of a cat and mouse race right now.
Kindrachuk says the challenge in the DRC is getting information and vaccines to more rural locations. He says here in Canada, vaccines are ready and available. One small town in Saskatchewan is offering an incentive to entice newcomers to move there. Moosomin, which is about 20 kilometers west of the Manitoba border, is offering $30,000 to anyone who builds a house in the community. Alexander Silberman explains.
Tiny Moosomin, Saskatchewan is booming. Growing so quickly, the town is preparing for its population to nearly double. So it's trying a unique strategy to build more housing, giving $30,000 to anyone who builds a home. Any type of housing qualifies. It doesn't matter if it's a single-family home, a basement suite, or apartments. And if it's multi-unit, the builder gets $8,000 for each additional door. The town got its funding from the federal government's Housing Accelerator Fund to try and keep up with its growing population.
We've got a lot happening, and the one thing that's been holding us back lately has been the lack of housing. So we've got people trying to bring new employees in, and there's just no place for them to live.
Moosomin has a diverse economy. There's manufacturing, natural resources nearby like potash, and lots of local businesses opening up. People here say there's no shortage of work. The town has also drawn a lot of newcomers to Canada in recent years, including dozens of families from Ukraine and the Philippines.
It is a huge sense of community here. People are so helpful to each other. There's no problem that we can fix. We want to build a playground, we're going to build a playground. The Filipino community wants to build a basketball court, they're going to build that.
Moosomin is trying to do everything right to be a small town that keeps growing. It's working with all levels of government, opening a new water treatment plant, a daycare, and looking into other housing incentive programs, all part of a plan to keep growing steadily into the future. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Moosomin, Saskatchewan.
Still ahead, Darius Mandavi is in next with his look at the Manitoba forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
This place.
Every corner of Manitoba has its own story.
Every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them.
Everywhere you are.
In every way we can.
Watching, listening, reading, streaming.
Sharing. CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
You know, Brittany, I have to say, doing your forecast, this is the best and the worst part, because I love looking at the photos of everybody's dogs that they've sent in, but having to choose just one is torture. But I went with this little guy. He's adorable. This is Bruno. Thank you, Brian and Pat, for sending in this photo. And if you are looking for a good time to go walk your dog tomorrow, it seems like the morning and the late afternoon, evening are going to be the best time in Winnipeg. There is a decent period in the middle of the day when we do have some thicker cloud cover, but it will be clearing and coming in and out. So overall, you should have plenty of time to go and take Pooch for a walk. Now, in terms of the next few days, lots more sunshine on the way. We're looking a lot drier for the most part as we head into early next week. Also lots of sunshine and temperatures sticking right around where they should be this time of year. So overall, Brittany, it's a very nice weekend coming up.
Thanks, Darius. Perfect weekend for a ball game. And a ball game is a great outing for the family, but no one was expecting this little excitement at last night's Goldeyes game. Here's tonight's Daily Lift.
For the birds? Really? We're going to wait for the birds to get off the playing surface, huh?
Well, this might just be the most Canadian reason for a delay at a baseball game yet. The Winnipeg Goldeyes game against the Sioux Falls Canaries was put on hold last night for a short time. A family of geese landed in the ballpark during the top of the 6th inning. A group of players tried to shoo them off from the infield, but the feathered friends were a little stubborn before they finally flew away. You know what? You can't. They just wanted to take in a little bit of the ball game too. It was a nice night for it before we got all of this rain. So who can blame them? This weekend looking like it also might be a lovely time to take in a ball game or get outside, enjoy the weather while you can and what's left of summer. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.